Today we're finishing the discussion of intervals by discussing inverted intervals. Now you know that when you invert something, you take it and you turn it upside down. This is also true of the intervals. If you take the interval of a second and you take the bottom note, the D, and put it on top, you have a much bigger interval, which is now a seventh. And this is true of all the intervals. Let's take them one at a time and look at them. First, the second, you have a D and an E. If I take the D and put it on top, an octave higher, then the interval is spelled the same way. Instead of D-E, it's spelled E-D. And this is the interval of a seventh. The second becomes a seventh. The major second becomes a minor seventh. Next we have the third, D and F sharp. F sharp stays where it is, and we put the D on top. The interval is spelled the same way, D F sharp, except that it's spelled F sharp D, and it goes from being a third to being a sixth, from a major third to a minor sixth. Now I have the interval of a fourth, D and G. We put that D on top, and we have a fifth. The fourth becomes a fifth. Next, the interval of a fifth, D and A. We take that A, leave it where it is, move the D on top, and the fifth becomes a fourth. The sixth, we take the B and leave it where it is, put the D on top, and the sixth becomes a third. The major sixth becomes a minor third. Now the seventh, D and C sharp, which remember is a very dissonant interval. Keep the C sharp where it is, add the D on top, and you have the very dissonant minor second. The seventh becomes a second. You may have noticed that in each case, the number of the interval, when added to the number of the new interval, equals 9. The second and seventh, 2 plus 7 equals 9. The third and the sixth, 3 plus 6 equals 9. The fourth and the fifth, 4 plus 5. The sixth and the third, 6 plus 3. The seventh and the second, 7 plus 2. They all equal 9. It's just a quick way to check to verify with arithmetic that you've come up with the correct interval. Now, let's touch last on one little thing about intervals, which is extended intervals, which you sometimes find in fiddle music. Extended means you add an octave to the interval to create a much bigger interval. We have, for example, the second. If we add an octave to that E, we have D-E. Take the E up an octave. Now we have the interval of a ninth. It's just a case of adding 7 notes to that second to run it up to an octave. You will find ninths used in blues, and I'll touch on that again when we get there. The other extended interval that is not uncommon is the interval of a tenth. You take the third and run that F sharp up an octave. You'll hear this in a drone situation sometimes in fiddling. Like that. It's also very common in classical music and played in the closed position. Very stretchy, very difficult to play. Sometimes I'll do this little basser lick when I'm playing, like that, but that's as much of the tenth that I will attempt when I see and hear concert violinists just tossing off tense as if they're nothing. I'm amazed that they can do that. That's probably about enough intervals for us to continue to the next subject, which is chords, the triad. And we'll take that up next time.